Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, where it is cold and blustery on this April Tuesday. And today I am channeling spring with the Beautiful Bokeh suite from the Stampin' Up! 2025 January to April Mini Catalogue. Now, this is a suite that I've kind of been on the fence about featuring because I have had a surprising number of people reach out to me and comment about the fact that they don't like butterflies. Now, I love butterflies. I love seeing them in my garden. I plant flowers to attract them. I just think they're so beautiful. But it never occurred to me that some of you may have a phobia of butterflies. So if you are a butterfly phobe, please feel free not to watch today. I am totally okay with that. I will not be offended. But for those of us that love butterflies as much as I do, I am going to be featuring this suite. I'm going to show you the products in the suite. You probably have seen it kicking around because the catalog has been around for a couple of months, and I'm finally just getting around to this suite. And then we're going to make 3 projects together. And then, of course, I have a whole bunch to show you at the end. So if you are joining me, whether live on YouTube or Facebook, comment and let me know that you're here and you're watching. And if you're catching the replay, let me know you're watching the replay as well. All right, so I am going to flip to my desk and show you the products. There we go. Okay, here we go. So it's a smaller suite, so we don't have a ton of products, but just enough to make beautiful, beautiful projects. So I'll show you the embellishments in a minute, but sort of the headliner of this suite is the bundle. So the bundle includes a hybrid embossing folder. Now, this is a gorgeous folder. But what I love about the hybrid embossing folders is that we can cut and emboss at the same time. So this large open die fits into the label side of your embossing folder. You put your cardstock in there, close it up, and run it through with the same sandwich that you would use for just a thick embossing folder or 3D folders. And when you are done, you get this gorgeous die cut embossed butterfly. Isn't that pretty? So I love hybrid embossing folders. They are one of my favorite products that we carry, and this is no exception. So you can use the embossing folder by itself or with the die to create lots of pretty projects. And then, of course, we've got our Stampin' Die bundle. So some butterflies and open dies to cut them out. And then this die is pretty cool. You're going to see this on the last project we're going to do. It's easier to show you than to describe, but it allows you to cut either a card front or a whole shaped card, which is really, really cool. So I'll show you that on our last project. And then, of course, we've got a couple of labels as well. So we can build all sorts of pretty flutteries. So we'll get this out of the way. And for me, my favorite part of the suite is this beautiful Bokeh 6x6 paper. Now, this is actually almost like a bulk pack because there are 6 patterns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you get 8 of each sheet in your pack. So it's great if you have to do multiples, if you're doing classes, if you're a demonstrator. I've been using this paper a lot because I get lots in the pack. So we get this beautiful bokeh effect, which is a photography term for sort of the way we get those little refracted light when we are taking photos. And then, of course, on the back, we have all sorts of sort of washes and textural patterns. So we've got, I'll show you the bokeh sides first, and then I'll show you the reverse. So there's 1 and 2. I think this is my favorite. I love the color combination in that one. And 3, and there's our pretty yellow. I love this one too. I think I like it just because of the mix of colors. And then we've got this pretty blue. And then, of course, on the back, we've got this. For me is Easter. Can you picture cutting Easter eggs out of all of these? These are like perfect for making Easter projects, the back of these sheets. Isn't it? Just, yeah, it's all about Easter. So that is the Beautiful Bokeh DSP. Now, the good news is this is carrying over. It is in the new annual catalog. So if you haven't yet snagged a pack, you've still got lots of time because it's going to be around for at least another year. And then we have this itty bitty bokeh mix. So these are loose embellishments. We've got some sequins. We've got some sort of 3D bubbles. You will see those on some projects. Great for shaker filler as well. Now, this I think is currently not available. It is coming back in stock, I think in a couple of weeks. I can't remember. But you can't get it right now. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep this out because we're going to use it on a couple of projects. All right. Let's get to it. Before I do, ooh, I'm all cockeyed here. I want to just say hello to everyone. So let's just see who is catching us here. All right. We got Mia and Charlie. Hi, Julie. Hi, Terry. Hi, Jeannie K. It's okay. It's okay. You do not have to apologize, Gina K. We all have our phobias, right? I do not like snakes. So there's my phobia. I'm revealing that one. I hope my students don't watch because they don't know that. I don't want anybody to bring in a fake snake and scare the bejesus out of me. Hi, Jean. How are you? Welcome. All right. So we've got Helen and Lisa. Welcome. Hi, Jamadi. Welcome. And Maria. Twyla, welcome, welcome. All right, let's get to it. So I'm going to show you our first project. This is one I posted earlier today. This is super quick and simple. So I'm going to go super quick and then pretty quick and then a little bit more stepped up. But all of our projects today are pretty quick because the dies do so much of the work. The dies in the embossing folder. So let's put this one together. We all need quick and easy cards, right? We need to have a little sort of arsenal of quick and easy cards when we need something in a hurry. So to start, here is my beautiful embossed background panel. So this is a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of basic white. And then I have just a 1.5 by 5 1/4 inch strip of the DSP. Oh, which side to use? Oh, that's a tough call. See, I like having that little bit of petal pink in it, so I think I am going to use this side, but I love the bokeh side as well. And then we also have a mat of fresh Freesia cardstock that is 1 5/8 by 5 1/4. So we're going to go ahead and layer that. But before we do, we're going to do a bit of stamping on our DSP. So this is, again, I every once in a while feel like it's necessary to just give everybody permission to stamp on your DSP. I have so many people that comment that they always forget to stamp on DSP, and it is paper, so you are allowed to stamp on it. So I'm going to stamp my sentiments. This is from the coordinating stamp set here, and I'm going to stamp it in Smoky Slate a little bit to the right on my DSP strip, just like that. And then I'm going to bring in my 2 smaller butterfly images. So there's a straight on one and then a profile butterfly. And we're going to stamp those sort of coming on from the bottom edge in fresh Freesia ink. So we'll ink this up. We'll stamp our little flutterby there. And then we're going to add another one, maybe kind of flying off the top edge like that. Okay. So that is that. I'm going to put the inks away, but keep the stamps out because I'm going to need them on another project. So now we can go ahead and layer this on our fresh Freesia cardstock. So we'll just add a bit of glue here and maneuver that into place. And then that is going to get glued to my embossed panel about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. Again, if you are looking or thinking design-wise, it's always better to not split things right in the middle. The eye prefers the rule of thirds. So I'm putting this below center because that tends to be what we like to see, what our eye likes to see. Okay. All right, so there is that. We're going to go ahead and glue that onto a fresh Freesia card base. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So we'll just fold that in half along our score line and give it a quick burnish with our bone folder. And then a little bit of glue. You all are going to be shocked at how few layers there are on this. There's still layers, but not as many as I usually do. I resisted the temptation to add a mat behind this layer. Believe me, it was not easy. The struggle is real. I need to start a Layerers Anonymous, I think, for quick and easy cards. All right, so there is my card base. And then we're going to assemble some little butterflies here. So I've cut 3 of these smaller detailed butterflies just from different spots on the DSP so that I get different variations in color. And then I'm going to give them a little bit of a burnish. So I'm just going to take my bone folder and very, very gently just bend the wings up ever so slightly. And that just gives them a little bit of dimension. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now, if you were in a real hurry, you could just glue these on just as they are, right? You do not need to add the little bodies, but I do feel like they add a lot to our butterfly. So I'm just going to take and put a little bit of white glue on these. These are just die cut from white cardstock. We're going to add one to each set of wings. So one there. You need almost no glue here. So go really, really light with the liquid glue. You don't want oozing butterflies. There we go. And you can see they still, even just laying on the grid paper there, have a little bit of dimension. All right, now we're going to add a half mini. Okay, so I'm not going to use a full mini just because they're a little bit wide. So I'm just going to take and cut up from the edge, up my mini dimensionals, and that gives me some half minis to adhere these to my card. So I've got a couple that I had cut from earlier. So we'll just go ahead and add one of these little guys. You could probably, if you wanted to be really careful, squeeze a whole mini on there. There is probably enough real estate, but I don't like to be that precise. I like to just slap my dimensionals on and go. So we'll go with the half minis. All right, and then it's just a matter of arranging these little guys. So we're gonna get rid of our backing, and we'll have one kind of coming on down here. And then there's one, yeah, this guy has a little bit more of the petal pink. So we'll layer that guy over here. And then this last one is going to be flying up off the top of our card, just like that. Okay, now we're going to add some of these itty bitty bokeh embellishments. And as I said, there's lots of different sort of little bits in there. We're going to be pulling out some of these little sort of they look like half bubbles. So I find it easiest to pull some out and just put them in the lid. They're easier to deal with when they're kind of separated from the sequins, because the sequins are very staticky. And they do have a tendency to stick to these little bubbles. And then, as happened on one of my cards, I might have peeled it off. No, I think I might have. Anyway, I will show you the card that it happened to. And I ended up with a sequin instead of a bubble, because I actually glued the sequin, not realizing it was stuck to the back of the bubble, and didn't quite get the look I wanted. All right, so I've got my 3 little bubbles here. So I'm just going to take some liquid glue, and I'm going to put little dabs of liquid glue where I want my bubbles to go. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to pull out my pokey tool, and you'll see why in a sec. I'm going to take my blue glue end of my take your pick. I'm going to pick up one of my bubbles, and then I'm going to use the pokey end to kind of peel it off the sticky and just plunk it into place. So this way you don't have to get sticky fingers and, you know, have the bubble stick into your fingernail and all of that kind of thing. This is just a really slick, easy way of placing them without having to worry about them sticking where you don't want them. Okay, so use your take your pick. It is your best friend, and you're good to go. All right, that's it. That's all there is to this card. Now on the inside, I just added a layer of white with the happy birthday sentiment from the stamp set, and then one of our little butterflies stamped off in fresh Freesia. Okay, so there we go. Super, super quick and easy one. So that's number 1. We're going to set that aside and let those little bubbles dry. And we're going to move on to number 2. So number 2, a little bit more stepped up. This one I posted yesterday. So similar kind of look, really the same layout, but a little bit more stepped up. So I'm going to show you how to put this one together. So let's pull our pieces out. So here I did a little bit more layering. Okay, we're going to start again with a piece of basic white cardstock that's 4 by 5 1/4. This time I embossed it with the dotted circles embossing folder, and you'll notice I embossed it so that the center of the circles is offset just a little bit. Again, it's that not centering things. I particularly like that, but I also wanted my circles to sort of highlight my butterfly as my focal image. Okay. All right. So I have here, this is a 2-inch. No, it's not. It's 1 3/4. I think I may have put the wrong dimension in the video description, so you'll need to correct that. I will do that as soon as I am able. So this is a 1 3/4 by 5 1/4 inch strip of the DSP. The reason I have so many of these strips is because when I cut a 4 by 5 1/4 inch card front from 6 by 6 DSP, I end up with lots of 2-inch strips. So that's why you see a lot of these on my cards, because I have lots of them. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, and I'm going to use the Calypso Coral side because I want it to coordinate with my butterfly. I'm going to use a little bit more glue on this than I did on my last one, just because the embossing that this embossing folder leaves is really quite deep. And I want to make sure that this piece stays stuck down securely. So this one is going to go on just a ½ inch up from the bottom. So it's even lower than the last one. So we'll secure that, and then we're going to flip this over and burnish it well. Okay, when you've got a pattern that is embossed this deeply, it does take a little bit more effort to get your paper glued securely. I should mention that the backside of this is just as pretty. Do you see the detail on that? There are some little raised bits and then the divots. I love both sides of this folder. It's one of my absolute faves. And then we are going to add a little bit of baker's twine. So this is just Calypso Coral baker's twine. And I'm going to take a double length, a little bit longer than, or a little bit wider than my, I should say a little bit longer than my cardstock is wide. That's what I'm trying to say. Words are hard today, apparently. And I'm going to lay it across my card front here. Get an idea of where I want it to go. And then add a glue dot. Wrap the end around. And then same thing on the other end. So this is my little cheater hack for not wasting twine on the back of my panel where nobody sees it. I'm all about not wasting things, right? So, and I think we probably all are when it comes to craft supplies. So there is our twine. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this onto our card front right off the top before we decorate. So our card base this time is 5.5 by 8.5, same dimensions as the last time, scored at 4 1/4. And this is thick basic white cardstock. I like using thick basic white for card bases. It's just a little bit sturdier than the regular basic white. And then again, I'm going to use quite a bit of glue here to make sure that this very embossed panel stays stuck securely. I'm going to trim those little tails off of it because they're kind of annoying me. There we go. Get rid of those. All right. Oh, now they're stuck to my finger. Let's pop that on. Now, I often get asked why I emboss, like why I do white on white. So I'm not putting a matte here. I've got a white panel on a white card base. That is because when I emboss a card front, I don't like to see the embossing on the inside of my card. It's just a personal preference. You absolutely could, if you preferred not to have that extra layer, you could absolutely emboss your card front and then just build your card on the card base itself. It's just a matter of preference for me. Okay. All right, so that is our base. Now look at this beautiful butterfly that I have die cut using the hybrid embossing folder. So it's cut from the same DSP that we used on the front of the card. And then I have one of the detailed butterflies cut from the pastel ombre glimmer paper. Now this was an online exclusive that launched, I want to say just before Christmas. It's absolutely gorgeous. So this has a little bit of petal pink and a little bit of bubble bath in it. And it gets darker as you go. I don't have any more of this left. I cut this from my last little bit. And I'm not sure. I think it's still available. I have not been on to check to make sure. So if this is something that catches your eye, and it really is beautiful. It comes in this pink, and there's shades of blue and green. Okay, absolutely gorgeous. All right, so we're going to go ahead and glue our body of our butterfly onto the detailed one. As soon as I find, there it is, right in front of my face. I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the body of my butterfly here. And then we're just going to layer that on there. And then I'm going to add a little bit more glue to this whole thing. Again, just at the center where the body is. And I'm going to layer that onto my die cut butterfly. Now, the embossed image, you can line up the body of the butterfly perfectly. Okay, so you get it aligned right up there. I feel like I need to add a little bit of glue behind the head. I missed that, I think. Yep, no glue there. Let's put a little smidge there. Make sure it stays put. We'll just give it a sec. Hi, Lauren, welcome. Hi, Catherine, welcome. I just happened to glance over and saw your names pop up. Okay, now I'm going to show you this card in profile. Can you see how the wings are sort of curled a little bit? I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, we have to deal with our sentiment. So I have one of the banners that is in the stamp set, or in the die set rather, and I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday in basic gray. Okay. Now this is a nice new basic gray pad, so it's nice and juicy and nice and dark. Did I tell you I ruined my basic gray ink pad? I don't know if I told you guys. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was too embarrassed. I need to think what I'm doing here before I tell you the story. So when I stamp this, I'm going to stamp it towards the left because my banner is going to tuck in behind my butterfly. Okay. So I'm going to stamp it towards the left and hopefully relatively straight. There we go. So I ruined my basic gray ink pad by using an archival gray. So back before we had the water-based basic gray, we had archival ink, which is like a solvent-based. And I mistakenly picked up a re-inker of archival ink and put it on my non-archival basic gray pad. So that one went in the trash because the solvent ink is not kind to these ink pads. So anyway, now I have a nice new one. It's all good. Just a recently new ink pad, right? So these little dots are also in the stamp set. I'm going to ink them in Calypso Coral and then stamp off, and then just add some little, I don't know, pixie dust bubbles sort of in behind my sentiment there. Just add a little bit of texture and interest to my sentiment banner. And then we're ready to put this on our card. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my banner here. Let's make sure I'm doing the right end. Yes, I am. Look at this brand new sheet of dimensionals. How often do you get to see that? Well, the way I go through them, probably pretty often, to be honest. It's like every other week I'm running out of dimensionals in my lives. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put our banner on. It's going to run just above our baker's twine here. And then our butterfly is going to go on at a bit of an angle. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to our butterfly. I'm going to just take care not to put any sort of in this middle portion where it's going to overlap my banner. So it lays nice and straight on my card front. And we'll get rid of these. And then that is going to layer just like that. Oops, nope, don't cover up our Y. Got a little carried away. Too much angle. You know what? I'm going to put up a little bit higher. There we go. That's better. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do, this is really, really simple. I'm going to show you how to curl these wings a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take a glue dot, roll it into a little glue booger. Let me take your pick. Okay. I want to make sure it's good and rolled up. And then I'm going to take the wing. I'm going to apply my little glue booger to the back of the wing here. And I'm just going to bend it in ever so slightly as I stick it down. So it's just going to bend in ever so. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So grab another little glue dot here. We're going to, oops, where'd it go? Stuck to my finger. I'm going to add it to the back of the wing and then just gently curl it. And then you get that pretty sort of 3D effect with your butterfly. Okay. All right. So now we're going to add a bit of Wink of Stella to the body of our butterfly, because if the wings are sparkly, then the body's got to sparkle too, right? So we're just going to add this. You probably won't be able to see it on the video. It does not. Wink of Stella doesn't show up especially well on camera. It's one of those in real life kind of things. And then we're going to add some of these, what are these called? Iridescent faceted gems. I just feel like the colors in this that are caught by the iridescence work really, really well with this color palette. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with words today. There we go. There are our little gems, and there is our finished card. You like that one? It's a little bit more stepped up with the detailed die cut. Oh, we forgot our bow. Almost forgot our bow. Let's tie our little twine bow here. So I'll bring back my baker's twine. Now, when I'm making a bow with baker's twine, I don't do the bunny ears thing. I just make a loop. I take the tail, wrap it around, and pull it through. So I'm not actually tying a knot. I'm just really making the bow with my loops. I mean, it looks like it has a knot, but I'm not tying a knot first, if that makes sense. I'm not doing bunny ears. I find that that makes the knot a little bit bulky. So doing it this way gives me a nice small knot. All right, so let's grab one more little bit of glue here. And we're going to tuck that in right sort of where the twine and the banner meet there. And just tuck that just in the corner there like that. Okay, there we go. Done and done. You like that one? Okay, set that one aside. And we'll bring in number 3. Got to make some space. Let's move some things around here. All right, so this is a super simple gatefold, but it's got a little surprise inside. So just a basic sort of landscape gatefold card. But when we open it, we have this magical little butterfly that opens up to reveal our message. So this is that die that I said it's easier to show you than to tell you. So this is the die here. And it has, if you wanted to cut a shaped card, which I will, here, I've got it right here. So this is a shaped card. So I cut both the front and the back of my card base to get a shaped butterfly shaped card. But there are little lines on the die, and when you turn them over, you can see those little lines on the front. Can you see those little, oh, I don't know, maybe, oh, there it is. You can see those little indentations. If you want to cut a shape, you want it to actually cut out, that you would line that up with the top edge. Okay, and that will give you your shape. This one, I actually moved it down because I wanted to have a frame. You'll see when as we're putting this together, so that I could have my little panel that flipped up. Okay. All right. So let me show you how to put this one together. It's not hard, but it is a little bit of a wow because of that little surprise inside. Okay. So we're going to start with a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of balmy blue cardstock. And I've scored it at 2 3/4 in on both ends. So 2 3/4, flip it around, 2 3/4. Okay. And then I'm going to take one side and fold it inwards. This is going to create our gatefolds. And then when I go to fold the second one in, I'm not going to burnish it right away. I'm going to bend it in, and I want to make sure that my ends butt up against each other. So I have a nice, neat seam there in the middle. Hold that in place, and then take your bone folder and burnish. Okay, and that'll give you a nice tidy seam. In case your measurements aren't quite perfect, as mine never are, having that little brief split second to adjust ensures you get a nice clean seam. Okay, so once you've got that nice and clean, you're going to burnish that really well, and that gives us our gatefold. Okay, all right, now we're going to do a little bit of decorating. Pull out all my bits here. So on the front of our card, we are going to add some balmy blue. This is the balmy blue Beautiful Bokeh paper. This is cut to 2.5 by 4 inches. So I got 2 panels, one for each side. And then I'm going to mat it. Yes, layering Lena is back. These are 2 5/8 by 4 1/8. So I'm going to go ahead and layer those on there like that. But first, again, we're going to do a bit of stamping. I do need to clean my stamps because right now they have purple ink on them. And we want blue. So we'll give these a quick little scrub with the chamois. Make some space. So I actually have room to put my ink pad down. And we're going to come in with our sort of straight on butterfly and have it kind of flying up one side. And then over here, I think we'll have this one coming on like that. And then we'll do one of our profile ones kind of up here. You'll notice I'm missing sort of the middle of the panel. That's because that's where our label is going to go. I don't need to really worry about that middle section. All right. Now we can go ahead and glue these onto our mats. Where's my glue? There it is. So we'll add these. Layer that up. There we go. And number 2. There we go. And again, I'm going to flip these over and give them a good burnish to make sure those are well adhered. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of ribbon So this is this beautiful, oh, it's just like, it's really, really simple ribbon. It's got a little bit of a loose weave. It's very soft. It's 1/4 of an inch wide, and it's just called white ribbon. Like, I don't think it has a special name, but it's really, really pretty, and I love using it. So we're going to, so this is a little trick. If you're doing a gatefold and you want the look of a horizontal strip of ribbon, but you can't have one because it needs to open, this is a little hack for you. So I'm going to start by layering my ribbon across my leftmost panel. Okay, I'm going to find my glue dots, which are buried here somewhere. This is just a scrap of ribbon I had kicking around and was the right length to use. So we're going to use it rather than waste it. Trim a little bit of it off. So I'm layering this one on to start. Okay, and then when I want to add ribbon to my second panel, I'm going to have this right beside it, like lined up top and bottom. I'm going to grab a glue dot, and I'm going to just layer this briefly over top where I want it to go. Then I'm going to pick this up and wrap that end around. Okay, and that is going to give the illusion of a continuous piece of ribbon until we open the card, of course. So we'll add another glue dot here and secure that. And there we go. Now we have what will look like a single piece of ribbon. Okay. All right. Now we can glue these onto the front of our card. So we'll add a little bit of glue. And we'll start with, I always like to start with the left side. I don't know. It's just my preference. Doesn't really matter. There we go. What will matter is when we go to glue this one on, we want to make sure that this side is closed so that we can line up those edges. So we'll just add a little bit more glue here. And then as we're laying this down, we're just going to make sure that those top and bottom edges line up. We've got nice equal borders all the way around. Everything's all nice and even. There we go. Give it a burnish and we're good. Okay, now before we add our label and whatnot on the front, we are going to work on the inside. I find it easier to work on the inside when we don't have a whole lot on the front. So on the inside panels, we're going to add a layer of embossed white cardstock on the inside of our gate. So these are the exact same size white as we used for the mat. So 2 5/8 by 4 1/8. So they are going to get layered on each side. So I'm actually just going to glue my left side on, and then we're going to work on the center and then add our right side at the end. Again, that's just so that I can ensure all my edges line up. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside for a second. And then here is my DSP panel. So this is cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. When I took my die, where'd my die go? You can see that I moved it down from the top edge. Okay, I didn't want it right up near the top because I needed to have a bit of a frame there to glue this down. Okay, if you put it up too high, you're not gonna have that much of a frame, and it will be harder to glue. Okay, I think it also looks better when it's centered. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add some glue to the back of this, but not to the butterfly. So we're gonna go around the frame and kind of around the butterfly. Because we're going to layer this onto a basic white panel that is the same size. So 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Okay, so I'm taking care not to put glue on the actual butterfly, but just on sort of the negative space around it. And then the easiest way to do this is to actually take your white cardstock and put it over top. Don't try to flip this thing over because your butterfly is going to move and you're going to get glue everywhere and you will be cursing me out. I'm telling you. So I promise this is the easiest way to do it. And again, like every little tip I show you, ask me how I know. It's because I tried to do it the other way and I was cursing myself out. So there we go. All right, so now you can see we have our butterfly. Okay, before we fold this open though, we're gonna add this little panel in here. So this gets cut out when we run it through with the die. So we're gonna glue this back in place. And I'm gonna put a little bit of glue, again, in this negative space here. I am going to make sure I put a little bit on these little prongs here that come around the antenna, just to make sure those are glued flat. So it's kind of like doing a jigsaw. We're going to just tuck that into place. Okay. Now, when we go to fold this open, there are some little score lines that are left there by the die. The easiest way to make sure that this opens and you get a nice straight crease is to take a straight edge. So I'm just going to use a ruler here. I'm going to line it up with those score lines at the top and the bottom. I'm just going to hold that there to make sure. It's very hard to see when I'm not looking straight down. And then I'm just going to take and kind of bend that to start the fold. Okay, then I'll take my ruler away, bend it the rest of the way up, and burnish. Okay, that just makes sure that everything's nice and straight and your fold line is nice and even. Okay, so there is our little peekaboo panel. Now, before we glue this down, we are going to stamp happy birthday in here as soon as I figure out what I did with, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going to use, what did I use on this one? I used Smoky Slate. How convenient. Smoky Slate is already on the stamp. So here we go. We're going to take our happy birthday. And I'm just going to line it up sort of between the wings of my butterfly here. There we go. There is our happy birthday. Put this away so I don't end up putting something in it. My hot tip for today. Do not leave your open ink pad laying around. And then I'm going to close this up and we are going to glue this inside our panel. And again, we're going to try to line up those top and bottom edges to make sure they're nice and even. So a little bit of liquid glue. And we'll pop this in place. And just like that. That looks pretty good. Give it a good burnish. And then we can add our final panel on the inside. Again, line that up. So we are nice and even. Close that up. We will come back and finish the inside of this in a few moments, but you will need to give this another burnish just because we got lots of layers on the inside. So just make sure that's well burnished. Okay. Now we're going to work on our finishing off our card front. Okay. So I have a large label here. This is from the Nested Essentials dies. And we're going to stamp our Time to Celebrate in Smoky Slate ink. So we'll ink that up. And stamp it pretty much centered on our label. And then we're going to bring back that little, I don't know, bubble pixie dust image. And again, I am going to clean this. And we're going to stamp this in a little bit of balmy blue. So again, I'm going to ink it up, stamp off, because I don't want it to overpower my sentiment. And we'll just have it kind of a few little bubbles. I think I'm going to double stamp that. There we go, a little bit in behind. Okay, now we're going to adhere this to the front of our card. So when we're gluing this, we want to make sure that the points on our label line up with the opening on the seam on the gate. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to line it up so I know exactly where it's going to go and know exactly where I can put my dimensionals, because I only want dimensionals on the left side of my label. Otherwise, my card won't open. So we'll get rid of our backings here. Come here, you. Now that I know that my dimensionals are safely placed, I can just focus on getting this lined up. Now, I prefer having my ribbon run a little bit below my label rather than straight through. If you prefer it straight on, you can certainly adjust as necessary, but I'm going to put it a little bit above where my ribbon runs. Okay, so you can see how that's going to open. All right, now we have another little bitty butterfly here. So we have a couple. I have one that I've already glued together and one that needs to be assembled as soon as I find the body. So again, this is cut from more of that Ombre Glimmer Paper. This is the blue. It's so, so pretty. Pastel Ombre Glimmer Paper. Check it out in my online store if you haven't already. It's very, very pretty. So we'll layer our little flutterbys together. While that one's drying, we're going to adhere this one just on the corner of the label here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the wings where it's going to overlap the label. I'll pop that on. Stay there, you. There you go. And then this one is going to be kind of flying up in behind the label like this. Of course, it'll be more visible when the card is open. But with it closed, it's going to kind of be peeking out from behind the label like that. Okay, and then we're going to add a bow. So I'm going to bring back my ribbon and we're going to tie a little bunny ear bow. So take our 2 loops, left over right, around and through, and then adjust our loops as necessary. This ribbon is so pretty and soft. It makes really pretty bows. And what I love is that because it's white, you can color it any color you want with your Stampin' blends. All right, where's the end of my glue dots? Where'd you go? There you are. So I'm going to press my knot into a glue dot. And then before I place this, I'm going to close my card and I just want to tuck my bow underneath where my label is going to go. I kind of want it to be on the corner there like that. So when it's closed, it kind of peeks out, but when it's open, it's like that. Okay. I'm not going to put my little sequins on until the end. We're going to finish up the inside of our card. So opening this back up again, I have just a plain white die cut detailed butterfly. And then I've got a glittery body that is cut from the same ombre paper. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue actually on the body of my or on the wings of the butterfly rather, and then add the body to it just to make sure I get the glue where I want it. Okay, and then this, when I go to glue this on, I'm going to layer it so that the antenna, I'm going to hold this up so you can see, the antenna of the detailed butterfly kind of line up with the wings of the sort of peekaboo opening. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. And we're going to glue this on. Again, so that my antenna line up. Just like that. Okay, so there's my little peekaboo panel. Wishing a happy birthday. And that's how it closes. And then our last touch is some more of these little sequins. This time I'm using these sort of little starburst looking ones. There's already one in my lid, so I only need 2 more. There's one. And I want a smaller one. Where are you? There you go. Okay, so these do stick together. Now, this is a cautionary tale. Use very, very, very little glue. Okay, because there is a hole in the middle of these sequins. If you use too much glue, you're going to have an oozy sticky mess. Once again, ask me how I know. I have to find things out the hard way. I'm like my students in that way sometimes. Gotta do it wrong before I know how to do it right. So we're gonna plunk that guy there. And one here. And when I'm gluing these on, I'm offsetting them a little bit so that they're not centered right over top of the little dab of glue to minimize the amount that is going to come through that hole. And I'm not going to press them into place. I'm just going to let them sit there and then the glue will dry and I won't have a sticky mess. Okay. So there we go. Isn't that a fun card? I love the little peekaboo effect. All right, let me bring back all of our projects for today and then I've got some more to share with you. So here we go. There's 1, 2, and 3. We'll clean up our mess later. So here is that cute little shaped card. This makes just a cute little note card or tag for a gift. But fun to play with that shaped die. Here is one. I think this was from my live launch party that I demonstrated. And then here's another. So this is kind of inspired by this one. Just a little bit different look in a portrait orientation. Here is one where it's all about the embossing folder. There's a little bit of black. I don't know what that is. And the die. And then I've just offset it a little bit. So it's a little bit of an eclipse look. But look at how pretty that paper is. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, here's another one. I love this sentiment. In case you need me, I'm here in the balmy blue. Okay, here is a totally not Lena card. This is a 1 layer, but I stamped it in basic gray and then just colored with my Stampin' blends. Super, super simple. And then here's a cute little easel card. This was actually, I think, from my launch bingo event that I did. So it opens up like this and just catches and stands. We've got a pretty little butterfly standing up there. So there you go. Lots of ideas with the Beautiful Bokeh Suite by Stampin' Up. You like those ones? Let me just slide that down. There we go. You can see a little better. All right, let me get back to here. There I am. Before I go, I just want to say a huge thank you from the deepest depths of my heart for all of your support thus far with my Sponsor a Yearbook campaign. I can't even tell you, every time a sponsorship comes in, I cry a little tear because these kids are so, I'm going to cry now, they're so important to me. And being able to leave this legacy for them is super important. So thank you for your part in this. If you have not yet donated and you would like to, sorry. Thank you again. It means a lot, as you can see. If you have not yet donated and you would like to, you can click the link that is in the video description. It will take you to my link tree where there is a link to the form to fill out a donation. Okay. Thank you, friends. And I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.